Hi, welcome back to the Aura Edit. I am your host, Danya Jimenez, and today I want to talk about a lot of different things. So buckle up, buckle in. I'm in LA. I'm outside of where I used to live in West Hollywood. I used to live in Hollywood. Kind of a lot closer to the fires. I'm on the outskirts. Luckily, my family's been really safe through all of this, but there is a physical heaviness to the air, and it's not just the air quality. It's energetic, and you can feel the devastation. You can feel the loss that people are experiencing, the despair, and it's really thick. You can just feel those energetic patterns in the air wherever you go. And there's this simultaneous need for folks to continue about their day, right? The city has to run, other people have to do what they're doing, but that heaviness is has texture. And we're gonna continue to feel that for a really, really long time. One of the things I've been thinking about is that when I first got sober 10 years ago, I had to figure out new ways to create community for myself, to engage with people, because most of my socialization had happened around alcohol, had happened around partying, had been, I was in my early 20s, and that's what we did. That's what people did. You're just adjusting to adult life. And so every occasion, even if it's going out on a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday night, or brunch on Sunday, there's alcohol involved. So I had to rethink the way that I hung out with people, because sobriety can be, especially I got sober at 25, sobriety can be incredibly isolating, right? That's why people join AA, because then that's like a group of people that they can turn to and rely on. And that was never really my bag. But anyways, all of that to say, I had to rethink how I hung out with people. So in the first like couple of years after I got sober, I was obsessed with working out, like a lot. And this coincided with like the class pass years. I was working out 7 to 10 times a week, like very much using all of that energy that I had been and time. You realize you have so much more time when you're not drinking or planning to drink or hungover, right? You have all of these extra hours in a day, particularly your weekends, kind of just like elongate out in front of you. So I transitioned obviously, a lot of my friendships did not survive that transition. Most of them did, honestly, which was great. But that closeness that I felt with people, some people definitely faded away, never recovered, because when you're sober, it's kind of a foil to other people, and then they have to like they think that they have to rethink their relationship to substances, and that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people. So anyways, I became kind of like the workout friend. So that's like how I would spend time with my friends is, we would go on hikes, or we would go to a workout class, and get coffee after. Like that kind of became that new mode of hanging out. And then at 26, 27, I started doing like, yoga teacher training. And so then people start coming out of the woodwork and start being like, what's this meditation stuff about? What can you, and then as the years have progressed, right? It's been a long trajectory. It moved from working out to like, can you read my tarot cards? Can we talk about my birth chart? Like it continues to evolve, and I love it. There's nothing I would rather spend time doing with you than talking about the astrology of your year. And I love it. I think it's such a fun way. It's very insightful, right? It's insightful to connect with someone, get a sense of like what challenges they're facing, and people are also, it's an opportunity for people to share with you like what they're experiencing and what resonates and what doesn't. And I absolutely love it. I promise I'm looping this all back to the fires. I've really been thinking about how the recovery is going to take forever, and LA is just one example. Obviously, the East Coast last year, North Carolina, Florida, there's all these places where the devastation of climate change has hit and will continue to hit. It's going to knock on your back door. Don't worry about it. But where I see an opportunity is making your socialization, instead of getting a Pilates class and grabbing coffee, It should be about volunteering. There's an opportunity to go and volunteer with your friends. And that's another thing that I did in the beginning. I joined a couple volunteer programs with a couple of girlfriends of mine. And like that's not a novel idea, right? Like that's why like the assistance league exists, and but that's all really like white woman centric stuff. Like every community has an opportunity to come together and organize and volunteer, and particularly in LA, I just want to offer that. I want to put that out there of like, next time you want to go hang out with your friends, why don't you guys go organize supplies for wildfire victims, or why don't you, whatever it is, right? Like look up opportunities. And I think that's a really fun way to connect with people. It's a fun way to like get that friend time in, right? Can continue to build your bonds with one another, and then you get to meet other people. There's other volunteers in the mix, and that becomes part of your world. That becomes part of your world building and your what if. So that's just something I'm going to offer, is like the recovery is going to take a really long time. And so find ways, instead of just like, if you're in that transition of like, I understand that there's the partying, and then after that there's the working out and going to Erewhon and getting a smoothie and whatever, and like you can volunteer and then go to Erewhon. Do you know what I'm saying? So that would be my little piece that I'm offering. The other thing I've been thinking a lot about is time, right? It's time, space, and the linearity, like how time is not linear and how it kind of all loops back on itself. And so I am in the process of organizing. I have a really strong concept for a book I'm working on. I'm in the process of organizing my writings because I've been writing. If you've asked me what my biggest goal has been for my whole life, but anytime anyone has asked me, what is your dream? What do you want to be working on? It's, I want to write a book. And I'm at a phase in my life, like I'm not young, I'm 35. I've had several friends self-publish or publish, get book deals at this point. So I'm like, what am I doing? Like I am really trying to get serious about it. So in the process of moving through all of my old writings, all of my old essays, organizing them around this concept that I'm working on. It's so revelatory to time travel. It feels like I'm time traveling. It feels like I am jumping back into my body at 27, 28, 29. And a couple of things I always recommend, like, I know writing is not everybody's bag, right? Everybody has a different creative expression tool. And for me, like, I wrote a ton in those years. I've had a podcast for the last, I've had reality. We started working on reality woo woo when I was 31. So that this forum, this just like talking into a mic or creating, also people forget like Instagram stories, like talking straight to the camera, that kind of um social media, or like that everyday social media engagement of like expressing yourself, did not exist until honestly 2018, 2019. Like I kind of go back and I'm like, oh yeah, like I started kind of like engaging in this like straight to the camera way a couple years ago. And not to say that it took the place of writing, it should never, because it's like short form, but it just became like this different tool for me. Anyways, I'm reading these things, and it's the reason I offer this to you, of like, you should catalog what you're experiencing, what your internal landscape, like capture it in some way, whether it be videos, whether it be writing, whatever that expressive, drawing, whatever it is for you, because it transports you. You get to time travel to that place and look at, what are these themes? What are these themes that are constantly coming up for me? Or, whoa, I was really concerned about this thing that absolutely never came to pass. That's one of the things that I'm like laughing about. And then there's like such incredible wisdom. I'm like, whoa, I was really like, I was so deep. It was after I'd done yoga it's kind of like in the middle of it. I'm writing a lot. I moved cities. I'm living in San Francisco. There's so much going on in my internal landscape. There's so many questions. There's a lot going on in these writings. And it's so funny to see. I was so obsessed with my body, because that is kind of early, that's something I feel like everybody struggles with, not just women, everybody. Their physical appearance and their their body image, but it's like so pronounced. I'm like, I cannot believe how much of my time and energy, and at that time, they say like as you get older you kind of like not forget, but you lessen your grip on it. But it's dramatic, the amount of time that I'm like, I just need to work out. Like I had a strong understanding that I had to move my body to feel good. I had that understanding that I needed to move so that I could feel happy. Not there's like some about my physical appearance, but mostly it's this connection to my mental health that I'm like, if I could just move this way or whatever, and whatever like little barriers I was going to. But what it also reminded me of is like your spiritual kind of awakening, your spiritual focus. It's a lifetime. It just continues. You continue to discover like the depth of yourself, and it's just an ongoing unfolding, right? But there are crunch periods. There are times where you can get like really deep in it. And you would think, given like everything I've just talked about, like, oh, maybe it was sobriety and maybe it was yoga teacher training, and like those are definitely like those are steps, those are part of it. But then I'm remembering, I'm reading the writings. At one point, I'm like 27 years old and I threw out my back. And I still deal with this. This is like it's part of my lower chakra system. It's not a like slip disc or anything. It's just that the muscles on the right side of my body, right around the base of my spine, it's your lowest chakra. It's scarcity. Whenever I get scared about money or finance or just like big life changes, the muscle on my right, basically the top of my right butt cheek, it just like, ooh, it tightens and it doesn't want to, and it's like a vice grip. It doesn't want to release itself. And so the first time that happened, I threw it out. I couldn't move. And so there was a physical need for health. I needed to go get this fixed. So I went to acupuncture for the first time in my life. And slowly, needles and cupping, and my back gets healed pretty immediately. But I continue to go to acupuncture. And then my acupuncturist at the time, and I've never had another acupuncturist do this other than like in the intake, but that acupuncturist, every time I would go, she would touch kind of like core, I think they're like the meridian points. She would touch them and ask me, do you have pain here? What does this feel like? What does this feel like? She would touch kind of like all these different spots on my body. And I had an overwhelming pain in the middle of my chest, like in my heart, to the touch. And I still, when I get really sad, or when people that I love are really sad, it still happens. Like I can feel it. But now I know how to, and same with my lower back, I know how to like move through those experiences because I understand the connection. But this was forged at that time. I'm going to acupuncture. I have a lot of this like built up stuff in my heart, this pain or whatever's going on there. And my acupuncturist is like, I can recommend a therapist. And so in the course of a year, I'm going to acupuncture, I'm going to therapy. They're talking to each other. So I think this was 8 years ago. I think people are understanding it's all connected. It can't like, they need to be talking. Everyone who's working on your health needs to be talking. That's not how the healthcare system is built in America, but that absolutely is how it should be. If you have a nutritionist, they all need to be talking in order to share information with one another about, because it's all connected, obviously. But that seems like a novel idea to people. People are just kind of getting it, but that's what I was going through. So my acupuncturist, I'm going once or twice a week. Therapist, I'm going once a week. They're talking to each other. We're releasing kind of emotional blocks and different things that I've been carrying. And over time, like, yeah, the physical pain is leaving. I would definitely call that a lot. There was a lot of shadow, it's the shadow work, but there was a lot of integration of parts of me that I had, I don't know, been suppressing or repressing, or just like truths that I wasn't as brave at the time in releasing. So acupuncturist, therapist, I'm writing every day. So I'm writing really heavy stuff, like everything that's ever happened to me, or I'm writing all of it. I'm doing like child regressions. I'm writing about like the the physical fear I felt in my body or anxiety or different things I felt like growing up as a child, as a teenager, like kind of going back through everything. And then that's the first time I hired a coach. And I did not realize all of these things were happening subsequently. Over the course of a year, that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. And I'm like, what, when did I work? Like, I know I worked. I know I had friends. I dated. I was like, I still had a very like full life, but I was so internally focused. And so I just say that of like, it's good to like layer in, obviously, these like progressive, we all need that energy. We need that like push for the next thing. That's why we hire, a coach or this or that. But it's like, it's awesome when you kind of layer it all together. When you stack all of these things and you really like just focus, just like 6 months of like really intense internal focus. And then that's kind of a platform you can continue to build on for years and years and years from there. So just something to think about if you are thinking about like investing in your well-being and you're like, "Oh, maybe I'll start with therapy or maybe I'll start with this." It's like, what if you did it all at once? What if you do it all at the same time? Cuz it's like one of those things, I think we all look back and there's always these memes online of like, am I the same person who like went to 6 classes a day and did extracurriculars and all these things as a teenager? It's like once you're in that mode, you're just in that flow state of like doing stuff. So if you're in like a self-improvement time, it's nicer. I know we get overwhelmed with stuff, but if you're like doing all these things at once, it just is like, yeah, that's my purpose. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm like really intent on healing, or I'm really intent on just understanding myself better. If that makes sense. All right, that was plenty. Thanks for tuning into the second episode. I did not make an email yet, but yeah, if you enjoyed it, rate and review and subscribe, all those things that people say at the end of a podcast. And thanks for being here. I'll see you on the next one.